Professor Alan Blackwood wiped his sweaty palms on his pants for the third time in 5 minutes. The metal chair beneath him felt too hard, too alien, which made sense, since it was designed by actual aliens. He sat in a large circular room, aboard the Vaxarian diplomatic vessel that had been orbiting Earth for the past 6 months. Through the wide viewport to his left, he could see the blue curve of his home planet. "Professor, are you feeling well?" asked Samantha Reeves, the State Department liaison assigned to him. Her calm voice helped steady his nerves. "Just stage fright," Alan admitted with a small smile. "Never thought my research on Wolverines would lead to an interstellar presentation. Remember, they selected you because you're the expert. Just talk to them like you would to first-year students." Alan nodded, adjusting the slides on his tablet one last time. When the Vaxarians had established contact with Earth last December, the world had changed overnight. The tall, willowy beings with their iridescent skin and calm voices had invited humanity to apply for membership in the Galactic Council, an alliance of 27 spacefaring civilizations. This cultural exchange program was part of the evaluation process. The large doors at the end of the chamber slid open with a soft hiss. 7 Vaxarians glided into the room, their movements so smooth they seemed to float rather than walk. Their translucent skin shifted colors like oil on water, currently displaying soft blues and purples that Alan had learned signified formal attention. Chief Ambassador Nix led the delegation, her elongated head crowned with what looked like delicate crystal formations. The translator device at her throat glowed softly as she spoke. "Professor Alan Blackwood, we welcome you to continue our biological and ecological exchange program. We are most interested in your expertise on Earth's predatory mammals." Alan stood and bowed slightly, as he'd been instructed. "Thank you for this opportunity, Ambassador. I'm honored to share information about Earth's wildlife." The aliens arranged themselves in a semicircle, their large, faceted eyes fixed on him with unblinking interest. Alan had given hundreds of lectures in his career, but never to beings from another world. He took a deep breath and tapped his tablet. "Today, I'll be discussing North American predators with special focus on their ecological roles and behaviors," he began. A holographic display appeared between him and the Vaxarian delegation, showing a map of North America. For the next 30 minutes, Alan explained the hunting patterns of wolves, the territorial behaviors of bears, and the stealth tactics of mountain lions. The aliens asked thoughtful questions about pack dynamics and predator-prey relationships. Their calm, scientific curiosity helped Alan relax into the familiar territory of his expertise. These larger predators maintain ecosystem balance by controlling herbivore populations, Alan explained, showing footage of a wolf pack bringing down an elk. Without them, certain species would overgraze, causing habitat damage that affects countless other creatures. The Vaxarians nodded in understanding. One of them, introduced as Science Consul Tev, asked, "Do humans ever fall prey to these animals?" "Rarely," Alan replied honestly. "Attacks happen, but they're uncommon. Most predators avoid humans when possible." This seemed to satisfy them, and Alan moved to the next section of his presentation. "Now I'd like to discuss a smaller but remarkably fierce predator, the Wolverine." The holographic display shifted to show a stocky, dark brown animal with distinctive yellow stripes along its sides. Standing at about knee-height to a human with powerful limbs and sharp claws, the Wolverine looked tough but not particularly impressive compared to the bears and wolves he'd just discussed. Despite weighing only around 30 pounds, about 1/15 the size of a male grizzly bear, Wolverines are pound for pound among the most fearsome predators on Earth. Alan played a video clip from his field research. The footage showed a Wolverine driving 2 wolves away from their kill, snarling and lunging with such ferocity that the much larger animals backed away. Wolverines have been documented stealing kills from bears and entire wolf packs. Their jaws are strong enough to crush frozen bones. They can travel up to 15 miles a day through deep snow, climb mountains that would challenge human climbers, and have been known to kill prey many times their size. Alan noticed an immediate change in the room. The Vaxarians' skin colors shifted rapidly to pale yellows and vibrant oranges, They began making soft clicking sounds to each other that the translation devices didn't convert. Professor, Ambassador. Nyx finally spoke, her translator struggling to match her rapid speech. This creature, this Wolverine, you allow it to roam freely? Alan paused, confused by the question. Well, yes, they're wild animals and an important part of the ecosystem. They're actually protected in many regions because their numbers have declined. And humans venture outdoors within their territory? Another Vaxarian asked, skin now pulsing with bright orange patterns. Alan glanced at Samantha, who looked equally puzzled by their reaction. Of course, people live, work, and enjoy recreation throughout Wolverine habitat. Though actual sightings are rare, they generally avoid humans. The aliens conferred among themselves in their musical language, their skin colors shifting rapidly. Ambassador Nyx turned back to Alan, her movements more rigid than before. Your presentation suggests these creatures will attack opponents many times their size, can traverse impossible terrain, and possess strength beyond their physical dimensions, she stated. Yet humans consider their habitat suitable for recreation? Well, yes, Alan replied carefully. Though Wolverines are powerful, they're not a significant threat to humans. They prefer to avoid us, unless they are guarding food or offspring, Science Consul Tev noted, clearly having paid close attention to the earlier data. Then they will attack creatures 10 times their size without hesitation. That's true of many predators, Alan said. But Wolverine attacks on humans are extremely rare. There are almost no confirmed cases. The ambassador's translator remained silent for several seconds as she communicated with her colleagues. When she finally addressed Alan again, her voice carried a new tone that the translator rendered as intensely formal. Professor Blackwood, we wish to observe this creature in its natural habitat. Our preliminary biological surveys clearly missed significant threats in your ecosystem. Samantha stepped forward, her diplomatic training kicking in. Ambassador Nyx, Wolverines are quite elusive. Tracking one would require an extensive expedition into remote wilderness. We are prepared to undertake such an expedition, the ambassador replied without hesitation. The Council must fully understand all aspects of Earth's biosphere before concluding our evaluation. Alan's mind raced. He'd spent months tracking Wolverines for his research, often without success. Explaining that to the aliens would be difficult. I'd be happy to arrange something appropriate, he said finally. Though I should warn you that Wolverine sightings cannot be guaranteed. We understand, Ambassador Nyx replied. We will provide advanced tracking technology to assist the effort. As the meeting concluded and the Vaxarians filed out, their skin still flickering with colors that suggested agitation, Samantha pulled Alan aside. What just happened? She whispered. They weren't nearly this concerned about bears or wolves. Alan shook his head, equally baffled. I have no idea. Something about the Wolverine really disturbed them. The State Department won't be pleased. They wanted these exchanges to focus on cultural similarities, not wilderness expeditions. Alan gathered his materials, still trying to understand the aliens' reaction. Something doesn't add up. They've surely encountered predators on other worlds. Maybe not like ours, Samantha mused. Did you see how their colors changed when you showed that Wolverine driving off the wolves? As they walked toward the shuttle that would return them to Earth, Alan couldn't shake the feeling that his straightforward scientific presentation had just become something much more significant. For reasons he couldn't yet understand, Earth's wildlife, specifically the unassuming Wolverine, had struck a deep chord with these visitors from the stars. I guess we're going camping, he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt, about the prospect of leading an alien expedition into the wilderness. 2 weeks passed quickly. Alan now stood in the morning sunlight outside Yellowstone National Park's research station, checking equipment for the 10th time. The crisp mountain air filled his lungs as he reviewed the contents of his backpack. Did you pack extra batteries for the tracking devices? Olivia Martinez asked, adjusting her own gear. As Alan's graduate student, she had jumped at the chance to join this unprecedented expedition. Yes. Plus spares for the spares, Alan replied, zipping the compartment closed. though the Vaxarians will probably bring their own tech. Speaking of which, Olivia said, nodding toward the approaching vehicles. 2 black SUVs with government plates pulled into the parking area. Samantha stepped out first, now dressed in practical hiking clothes instead of her usual formal suit. She was followed by a tall man in ranger uniform. "Professor Blackwood, this is Ben Collins," Samantha said. "He's been the chief park ranger here for 15 years and knows the backcountry better than anyone." Ben shook Alan's hand with a firm grip. "Heard I'm helping you find a Wolverine for some space folks. Never thought I'd put that on my resume." "Appreciate your help," Alan said. "This is my student, Olivia Martinez." As they exchanged greetings, the second SUV door opened. A man in military fatigues stepped out, his posture straight and alert. "Captain Kyle Winters, Special Liaison Division," he introduced himself. "I've been assigned to ensure our visitors' safety." Alan raised an eyebrow at Samantha, who shrugged slightly. "Standard protocol for diplomatic missions in remote areas," she explained quietly. Before they could discuss further, a low humming sound filled the air. Everyone looked up as a sleek silver craft descended from the clouds. Unlike the massive diplomatic vessel orbiting Earth, this smaller shuttle moved with graceful precision, landing gently in the open field beside the research station. "Showtime," Samantha murmured, straightening her jacket. The shuttle's side panel slid open, revealing 3 Vaxarians. They stepped carefully onto Earth's soil, their environmental suits gleaming in the sunlight. Unlike the simple suits worn during diplomatic meetings, these appeared more robust, with reinforced panels and various instruments attached to the arms and chest. Dr. Ziv, who had been introduced in previous communications as the expedition leader, approached the human group. The Vaxarian stood a head taller than Alan, with skin that shifted between green and blue tones visible through the suit's clear faceplate. "Professor Blackwood," the alien greeted him, the translator at its throat, converting the musical sounds into English. "We are prepared for this field study." "Welcome to Yellowstone," Alan replied, trying not to stare at the elaborate equipment the aliens carried. "This is my team. We've planned a route through areas where Wolverines have been recently spotted. Dr. Ziv introduced the other 2 Vaxarians, Trill, a biological specialist, and Vex, their security officer. Each nodded respectfully, their skin displaying patterns of blue and green that Alan had learned signified cautious interest. "Before we depart," Dr. Ziv said, "we wish to better understand the terrain and threats we may encounter." Ben stepped forward, unfolding a large map across the hood of the SUV. "I've marked our route here," he explained, tracing a line through the backcountry. "It's a 5-day trek through prime Wolverine habitat. We'll set up camp each night in these clearings." The Vaxarians huddled around the map, their long fingers tracing the contours while their skin shifted to deeper blues. "And what other predators might we encounter?" Vex asked, the security officer's translator giving the words a clipped tone. "Bears, wolves, mountain lions," Ben listed. "Though they generally avoid humans, we'll take normal precautions. Proper food storage, making noise on the trail." The Vaxarians exchanged glances, their skin flashing with quick patterns of yellow. "You consider these precautions adequate?" Vex asked. "We've been managing these risks for generations," Ben assured them. "I've spent 30 years in these mountains with only 2 dangerous predator encounters, both resolved without harm." This did not seem to reassure the aliens as much as Ben had intended. They moved inside the research station for final preparations. As Alan packed the last of the food supplies, he noticed Dr. Ziv examining the equipment wall with great interest. "Your protective gear seems minimal," the alien observed, touching a bear spray canister. "That's bear spray," Alan explained. "Capsaicin, deterrent. Very effective. You defend against megafauna with spicy liquid." Dr. Ziv's skin rippled with what the humans had learned was their equivalent of surprise. Alan smiled. "Works better than you might think." That evening, the group gathered in the station's common room for dinner. The humans ate pasta while the Vaxarians consumed their own food supplements. As they ate, Dr. Ziv finally began explaining what had brought them to Earth's wilderness. Our initial surveys of your planet categorized it as a standard Class M world, the alien said, using a small device to project holographic images into the air above the table. But our biological analysis was clearly incomplete. The projection showed comparison charts of various planetary ecosystems. In the known galaxy, planets with complex life typically evolve toward balanced ecosystems, Dr. Ziv continued. Predation exists, but it's typically efficient and minimally violent. That's not how evolution works here, Olivia said between bites of pasta. Precisely. Dr. Ziv's skin flashed bright blue in what they now recognized as scientific excitement. Earth maintained an unusually high oxygen atmosphere for billions of years, allowing for extraordinary metabolic rates and sustained aggression in animals. Alan leaned forward, fascinated. Are you saying Earth predators are more dangerous than those on other worlds? Not just predators, Dr. Ziv replied. Your herbivores are equally terrifying by galactic standards. Hippopotamuses, elephants, even your plant eaters would dominate most worlds, and yet humans evolved here, Ben mused, refilling his coffee mug. Dr. Ziv's skin paled almost to white. Yes, that is precisely what concerns the Council. You evolved alongside these creatures, competed with them, and ultimately dominated them. What kind of species could accomplish that? The humans exchanged glances, suddenly seeing themselves through alien eyes. Is that why you're so interested in Wolverines? Alan asked. Because they're aggressive? We are interested in Wolverines because your reaction to them reveals much about humans, Dr. Ziv explained. When you described a creature that drives away opponents many times its size, that travels through frozen landscapes no spacefaring species would willingly visit, that hunts with seemingly reckless courage, you showed admiration, not fear. Captain Winters, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke. You think we're dangerous because we admire toughness? We think you're fascinating, Dr. Ziv corrected, skin shifting to a more neutral blue. Most intelligent species evolve on worlds where physical confrontation is rare. Cooperation and avoidance are the dominant survival strategies. But humans, we evolved on a death world, Olivia finished, the realization dawning on her face. By your standards, anyway. Dr. Ziv's translator remained silent for a moment. That term, death world, is remarkably accurate. The Council has encountered only 5 other planets with similar conditions that produced intelligent life. All 5 species became valuable Council members, though integration required special accommodations. So this Wolverine expedition is really about studying us, Samantha said, her diplomatic training helping her connect the dots. All scientific observation has multiple purposes, Dr. Ziv acknowledged. We wish to understand how humans perceive the dangers of their own world. Tomorrow we begin that journey in earnest. As the meeting broke up and everyone prepared for bed, Alan found himself staring out the window at the dark wilderness beyond. He had spent his life studying predators, admiring their adaptations and behaviors. Never once had he considered that this perspective might be unusual on a galactic scale. Tomorrow they would venture into the backcountry, not just as wildlife researchers, but as representatives of a species that called a death world home. Alan wasn't sure whether to feel pride or concern about what the Vaxarians might conclude. Dawn broke over the mountains with soft pink and gold light. Alan zipped his jacket against the morning chill as the group gathered outside the research station. The Vaxarians emerged from their shuttle where they had spent the night, their environmental suits gleaming in the early light. Everyone ready? Ben asked, checking his pack one final time. We've got a long hike ahead of us today. The humans nodded, adjusting backpack straps and lacing boots. The Vaxarians moved with careful precision, their suits now equipped with additional monitoring devices that hadn't been present yesterday. Dr. Ziv, may I ask about your suits? Alan inquired as they prepared to depart. Are they necessary for your survival in our atmosphere? Not entirely, the alien replied. We can breathe your air for short periods. These are primarily for protection against biological contaminants and... The translator paused briefly. Physical hazards. Captain Winters raised an eyebrow but said nothing. The group set off along the trail, Ben leading the way with Alan close behind. The Vaxarians moved in a tight formation, constantly scanning their surroundings with both their large eyes and various instruments attached to their suits. The trail wound through pine forests and open meadows, climbing steadily into the mountains. The humans maintained a comfortable pace, occasionally pointing out interesting plants or wildlife signs to their alien guests. The Vaxarians recorded everything, their skin shifting between blues and greens as they documented Earth's wilderness. By midday, they had reached a high ridge overlooking a vast valley. The humans dropped their packs and sat on rocks to eat lunch. The Vaxarians remained standing, their instruments tracking something in the distance. "Movement detected," Trill announced, pointing toward the valley floor. "Large mammals." Ben pulled out binoculars and scanned the area. "Elk herd," he confirmed. "About 20 of them grazing near the stream." The Vaxarians extended their own viewing equipment from their suits, studying the distant animals with intense focus. "Herbivores," Dr. Ziv noted. "Yet equipped with formidable defensive antlers. The males use them to fight each other during mating season," Olivia explained. "Also for defense against predators." The group continued their journey after lunch, descending into the valley. The trail now followed a small stream through thicker forest, the ground soft with fallen pine needles. "We're entering prime wildlife territory," Ben warned. "Make noise as we walk. No need to surprise anything bigger than us." The humans began talking more loudly, occasionally clapping or calling out. The Vaxarians observed this behavior with obvious confusion, their skin flickering. "With yellow patterns, why do you announce your presence?" Vex asked. "Is this not dangerous?" "It's safer," Alan explained. "Most predators prefer to avoid humans. Making noise gives them time to move away before we get too close. Surprise encounters are when problems happen." "Fascinating," Dr. Ziv murmured. "On most worlds, prey species make noise. Predators remain silent." "Humans are technically omnivores," Olivia pointed out. "But in this environment, we're not the apex predator." "Yet you enter the territory of apex predators voluntarily," Trill observed. "Without weapons." Captain Winters patted the holster at his hip. "Not entirely without protection." The Vaxarian skin flashed with rapid patterns at this response. They made camp that evening in a small clearing beside the stream. Ben and Alan set up the tents while Olivia and Captain Winters gathered firewood. The Vaxarians observed these routines with careful attention, occasionally helping but mostly documenting the humans' actions with their recording devices. As darkness fell, Ben built a campfire. The flames cast flickering light across the clearing, creating long shadows among the trees. The humans sat close to the fire, enjoying its warmth as the mountain air grew colder. After some hesitation, the Vaxarians joined them, sitting cross-legged on folded thermal blankets they had brought from their shuttle. "Fire," Dr. Ziv said, watching the flames dance. "Most species fear it instinctively. Humans harness it casually. We've had a long relationship with fire," Samantha replied. "It's been key to our survival for thousands of years." "It protects us out here too," Ben added, poking the logs with a stick. "Keeps animals away during the night." As if on cue, a distant howl echoed through the mountains. The Vaxarians instantly tensed, their skin paling to almost white. "Wolves," Alan identified, looking toward the sound. "Miles away, but sound carries at night." The Vaxarians huddled closer together, while the humans merely lifted their heads to listen. More howls joined the first, the pack communicating across the darkness. "Beautiful sound," Olivia said softly when the howling finally stopped. Dr. Ziv's translator remained silent for several seconds before converting the alien's response. "Your definition of beauty differs significantly from galactic standards." Next morning they continued deeper into the wilderness. The trail grew less defined and Ben relied more on his map and compass. The Vaxarians moved with increasing caution, their instruments constantly monitoring their surroundings. Near midday, as they crossed a rocky slope, Olivia spotted movement on a distant ridge. "Look," she whispered, pointing toward the opposite side of the valley. "Wolves." Everyone stopped, turning to look. Through binoculars they could see a small pack, 5 gray wolves, moving along a game trail on the far slope. The Vaxarians froze, their suits extending multiple scanning devices toward the distant predators. Gray wolves, Alan explained, quietly. They're hunting, probably tracking the elk herd we saw yesterday. They appear coordinated, Dr. Ziv noted, skin rippling with colors. Pack hunters with advanced social structures. Highly intelligent predators, Alan agreed. They work together to bring down prey much larger than themselves. Yet you show no fear, Dr. Ziv observed. They are less than 1 kilometer away. They're not interested in us, Captain Winters said, lowering his binoculars. Not with easier prey around. On our worlds, large predators invariably target technological species first, Dr. Ziv explained, the translator giving his words a solemn tone. It's why most spacefaring civilizations evolved on planets with minimal predation pressure. The humans exchanged surprised glances. Maybe that's why they find Wolverine so fascinating, Olivia whispered to Alan. They're trying to understand how we survived at all. They watched the wolves until they disappeared into the forest, then continued their journey. The trail now led them toward an area where park rangers had reported Wolverine tracks the previous month. As they hiked, Ben shared stories about his years in the wilderness, encounters with bears, helping lost hikers, tracking wildlife through changing seasons. The Vaxarians listened with intense interest, their recording devices capturing every word. You speak of these experiences as pleasant memories, Trill observed after Ben described a close encounter with a moose. Not as survival ordeals, Ben laughed. That's why we're out here. We like it. The challenge, the beauty, the unpredictability. Humans seek unpredictability? Vex asked, the security officer's translator conveying clear confusion. Most species establish environments specifically to eliminate variables. Where's the fun in that? Olivia asked with a smile. The Vaxarians had no immediate response, their skin shifting through patterns of blue and yellow that the humans could not interpret. That night, as they set up their second camp in a sheltered grove, Alan realized the expedition had become something far different than a simple Wolverine tracking mission. With every step into the wilderness, every casual human interaction with Earth's dangerous environment, they were revealing something profound about humanity itself. Morning dew sparkled on the pine needles as the group broke camp on the third day. Alan noticed the Vaxarians seemed more alert today, their skin displaying rapid patterns of blue and yellow as they prepared their equipment. Our instruments detected small predator movements during the night cycle, Dr. Ziv explained when Alan asked about their excitement. The signature matches your Wolverine data. We might be in luck, Alan replied, feeling his own excitement grow. Let's check for tracks, after breakfast. Once they had eaten and packed, Ben led them toward a rocky area near a small stream. The ground was softer here, with patches of mud that might hold prints. Everyone moved slowly, eyes scanning the earth for signs of wildlife. Here, Olivia called out, kneeling beside the stream bank. Tracks. The group gathered around her. Clear, in the mud were the distinctive prints of a wolverine, each showing 5 toes with claw marks extending forward. The tracks formed a line leading toward a rocky outcropping nearby. Fresh, Ben confirmed, touching the edge of one print gently. From early this morning. The Vaxarians' instruments extended from their suits, scanning the prints with beams of blue light. Size indicates an adult male, Trill reported. Approximately 15 kilograms. 30 pounds, Olivia translated for the humans. Good-sized Wolverine. Dr. Ziv's skin pulsed with excitement. Can we follow its path? We can try, Ben said. But Wolverines can cover miles of rough terrain daily, and they're not always easy to track. They followed the prints carefully. The tracks led them up a steep slope and across a field of broken rocks where Ben had to rely on small signs, a disturbed stone, a tuft of fur caught on a branch, to maintain the trail. The Vaxarians moved with increasing tension, their instruments constantly scanning ahead. After an hour of tracking, they reached the edge of a small clearing surrounded by fallen logs and boulders. Ben raised his hand, signaling everyone to stop. Look, there, he whispered, pointing toward the far side of the clearing. At first, Alan saw nothing. Then movement caught his eye, a dark shape dragging something across the ground. The Wolverine had found food. The Vaxarians extended viewing equipment from their suits, recording the animal from a safe distance. The creature was stocky and powerful, with dark brown fur and distinctive yellow stripes along its sides. It was dragging a large piece of meat, part of an elk leg, toward a space between two boulders. "It's claim to kill," Alan explained quietly. "Probably drove off the original predator." "Incredible," Dr. Ziv whispered, skin rippling with scientific excitement. "The animal is so small compared to wolves." The Wolverine suddenly stopped dragging its prize and lifted its head, sniffing the air. It turned toward their position, black eyes scanning the forest edge. "It's noticed us," Captain Winter said, hand moving slowly toward the bear spray on his belt. "Stay still," Ben advised. "It'll probably just take its food and leave." The Wolverine stared in their direction for several long seconds. Then it did something none of them expected. Instead of retreating, it moved forward, placing itself between the humans and its food. The animal lowered its head and let out a deep, throaty growl, its powerful body tense and ready. "It's not backing down," Olivia whispered, amazement clear in her voice. "It's challenging all of us." The Vaxarians' translator devices struggled to convert their rapid communications, producing only fragments. Territorial display, mass differential, threat assessment. Dr. Ziv activated a small recording drone, which floated silently from the alien's suit and hovered above the clearing, capturing footage of the Wolverine. The movement caught the animal's attention. The Wolverine's growl deepened, and to everyone's surprise, it suddenly charged forward several steps before stopping, clearly warning them to keep their distance. "We should back up slowly," Ben advised. "Give it some space." As the group began to retreat, Captain Winters kept his hand near the bear spray, ready to act if needed. The Wolverine watched them, continuing to growl until they had moved about 50 yards away. Then it returned to its prize, dragging the meat farther into the rocks. 30 pounds, Dr. Ziv said when they had reached a safe distance, skin pulsing with astonishment. 30 pounds of pure aggression, willing to challenge creatures many times its size, including unknown entities. "That's nothing," Olivia said, still watching through her binoculars. "Once in Alaska, I documented a Wolverine chasing a grizzly bear away from a kill. They're pound for pound the most fearless creatures on Earth." "And you share a planet with them," Dr. Ziv said, the translator giving the words a tone of wonder. "Now I truly understand why the Council is concerned." As they retreated to a safer observation point, Alan noticed Dr. Ziv sending urgent communications through a device on the alien's suit. The alien's skin was shifting through complex patterns of color, unlike anything Alan had seen before. "Is everything all right?" he asked. Dr. Ziv's translator hesitated before converting the reply. "The Wolverine isn't what frightens us, Professor Blackwood. It's the fact that you humans consider them merely interesting rather than terrifying." They set up their observation post on a ridge overlooking the clearing, far enough away to avoid disturbing the Wolverine, but close enough to observe with binoculars and the Vaxarians' advanced equipment. The aliens took turns monitoring the animal, collecting data on its movements and behavior. As evening approached, they reluctantly left their observation post to make camp for the night. The Vaxarians seemed subdued, their skin displaying deeper blue tones as they helped set up tents and gather firewood. Around the campfire that night, Dr. Ziv finally explained what troubled them. "We have been sending our observations to the Council," the alien said. "Your Wolverine has triggered significant debate." "About what?" Samantha asked, her diplomatic instincts alert. "About humans," Dr. Ziv replied. "The Wolverine displays remarkable aggression and fearlessness despite its size disadvantage. It survives in harsh conditions that would kill most species. It challenges creatures many times its size." "And?" Alan prompted when the alien paused. "And you evolved on the same planet. You face the same environmental pressures, the same predators, the same harsh conditions," Dr. Ziv continued. "But unlike the Wolverine, you developed technology, language, cooperation. You became the dominant species on a world filled with creatures like the one we observed today." Captain Winters poked the fire with a stick. "So what's the Council's concern, that we're too aggressive, too stubborn?" The Council is concerned about integration, Dr. Ziv explained. Most member species evolved on worlds with less extreme survival pressure. They developed different temperaments, different risk assessments. The fire crackled in the silence that followed, casting flickering shadows across both human and alien faces. So what happens now? Olivia finally asked. Now we complete our expedition, Dr. Ziv replied. Tomorrow, we will observe the Wolverine, again if possible. Then we return to your research station and I will deliver our complete findings to the Council. Alan stared into the fire, suddenly understanding that this small expedition into the wilderness might have far-reaching consequences for humanity's place among the stars. The return journey to civilization passed quickly. After one more day observing the Wolverine from a distance, the expedition team packed up and hiked back toward the research station. The Vaxarians remained quiet for most of the trek, their skin displaying deep blue patterns as they processed everything they had seen. 3 days later, Alan found himself sitting in an unfamiliar conference room at a government building in Denver. Large windows offered views of the Rocky Mountains in the distance. The room had been prepared for an emergency meeting with the full Galactic Council delegation. Alan smoothed his tie nervously. He had traded his hiking clothes for his one good suit, which already felt too tight around the collar. Beside him sat Samantha, looking perfectly composed in her formal diplomatic attire. Olivia, Ben, and Captain Winters completed their team, all dressed more formally than Alan had ever seen them. Relax, Samantha whispered. You've done nothing wrong. Quite the opposite. The Vaxarians seem impressed. Impressed or concerned? Alan wondered aloud. There's a difference. Before Samantha could respond, the doors opened. Ambassador Nix entered, followed by Dr. Ziv and 8 other Vaxarians Alan hadn't met before. Their elaborate ceremonial robes and crystal head ornaments suggested high rank within their society. Everyone stood as the aliens arranged themselves in a semicircle at the front of the room. Ambassador Nix stepped forward, her translator active. Professor Alan Blackwood, we thank you and your team for your assistance in our biological survey, she began. The Council has reviewed all expedition data and reached important conclusions regarding Earth's status. Alan nodded, feeling oddly like a student waiting for a grade. Earth is officially classified as a Class 5 death world, Ambassador Nix announced. Only the 6th such planet discovered in Council history with indigenous intelligent life. The humans exchanged glances. Alan could see Captain Winters suppressing a smile at what clearly sounded like a compliment to him. I don't understand the problem, Alan said carefully. Yes, Earth has dangerous wildlife, but the concern isn't your wildlife, interrupted a multi-limbed alien delegate. It's what your evolution in such an environment implies about your species. Samantha leaned forward slightly. Are you suggesting humans are inherently dangerous? Humans evolved on a planet where nearly everything was trying to kill you, Ambassador Nix explained. Your ancestors survived ice ages, predators, starvation, disease, and each other. Your baseline stress tolerance and capacity for perseverance exceeds that of most Council species by orders of magnitude. Captain Winters crossed his arms. Sounds like you're afraid of us. Not afraid, Dr. Ziv interjected, stepping forward. Fascinated and concerned about integration. Consider how you reacted to the Wolverine, with admiration rather than terror. Your species routinely engages with apex predators, extreme environments, and physical dangers as recreation. Alan thought about human mountain climbers, big wave, surfers, and wilderness explorers. He had never considered these activities unusual, but through alien eyes they probably seemed insane. The Wolverine incident was particularly revealing, Dr. Ziv continued. A small mammal confronted 7 much larger beings without hesitation to protect its resources. We recorded your reactions, no fear, only scientific interest and respect. That's a normal Wolverine behavior, Olivia pointed out. And that's our point, Ambassador Nix replied. What is normal on Earth would be extraordinary anywhere else. You evolved on a world where small creatures routinely challenge larger ones and sometimes win, where survival requires constant adaptation to threats. where cooperation exists alongside fierce competition. One of the other Vaxarian delegates stepped forward, skin displaying bright patterns. The Council has only encountered 5 other species from similar worlds. All 5 required special integration protocols, but all became valuable members. Samantha's diplomatic training kicked in. What does this mean for Earth's application to the Galactic Council? Ambassador Nix's skin shifted to a formal pattern of blue and green. The Council proposes a modified membership track for Earth. Humans would maintain autonomy over their biosphere, with special status as wilderness guides and planetary defense specialists. You want us to be your bodyguards, Ben translated, raising an eyebrow. We want your perspective, corrected Dr. Zeev. Most Council species evolved on worlds where cooperation was the primary survival strategy. You evolved on a world where adaptability, aggression, and risk-taking were necessary. Both approaches have value. Ambassador Nix continued. Humans would serve as consultants on planetary exploration, security protocols, and emergency response teams. Your natural tolerance for stress and danger makes you uniquely suited for roles that other species find challenging. And in exchange? Samantha asked. Access to Council technology, protection from hostile forces, and integration into galactic society, Ambassador Nix replied, with appropriate cultural exchange programs to ease transition. Alan remembered the Vaxarian's shock at his Wolverine presentation months ago. Now it made sense. They hadn't just been surprised by the animal's ferocity, but by humans' casual acceptance of living alongside such creatures. We need time to discuss this, Samantha said diplomatically. Of course, Ambassador Nix agreed. This is merely an initial proposal. Full negotiations would follow formal acceptance. After the meeting ended and the aliens departed, the human team remained in the conference room processing everything they had heard. So basically, Olivia said with a laugh, we impressed the galactic community by not being afraid of a 30-pound weasel? We impressed them by evolving on a planet where 30-pound weasels can take down creatures 10 times their size, Alan corrected. And by thinking that's normal. Captain Winters gazed out the window at the mountains. I wonder what they'd think if we told them some humans keep predators as pets. One step at a time, Samantha cautioned, but she was smiling. For now, let's focus on the fact that humanity's ticket to the stars might very well be our bizarre tolerance for danger. Deathworld, Ben mused, trying out the term. I kind of like it. Makes Earth sound metal. Alan laughed, then found himself staring at the distant mountains visible through the window. Those peaks held wolverines, bears, mountain lions, and countless other creatures that humans had evolved alongside. Species that had helped shape humanity through millions of years of shared evolution. When the Vaxarians first asked why we go outside despite the dangers, Alan said thoughtfully, I didn't have a good answer, but I think I do now. What's that? Olivia asked. We go outside because that's where we became human, Alan replied. Facing challenges, adapting to threats, working together to survive in a dangerous world. That's our story. That's who we are. Samantha nodded. And apparently, that makes us pretty special in the galaxy. As they gathered their things to leave, Alan thought about the Wolverine they had observed in the wilderness. Tenacious, resourceful, and unintimidated despite its size. Perhaps there was something fitting about these creatures helping humanity find its place among the stars. From apex predator to galactic partner, he mused, following the others toward the door. Not bad for a species that shares its home with Wolverines. Olivia grinned at him. Just wait until they find out about honey badgers.